Now, the New Testament reading this morning is taken from the Gospel of Luke. And that was probably written about, I don't know, certainly not before AD 80, probably between 80 and 100 AD, so at least 50 years after the death of Christ. And so we can be pretty sure that Luke never met Jesus, or at least if he did, he was just a small boy. So Luke must have used secondary sources in order to compile the Gospel. It means he might have spoken to actual eyewitnesses, but it's more likely that he spoke with children or grandchildren of eyewitnesses. And it's possible, in fact probable, that there were other written sources that he used, sources that are now lost. But one of those sources has now been rediscovered, and it's from one of the many documents that were found at Qumran, the ones that we know as the Dead Sea Scrolls. And the one that's been translated is one that actually covers that very passage. It covers the miraculous event that we know as the Transfiguration. And it's in the form of a letter. And it's written from, we think, the mother of John. John was one of the disciples. He was a young disciple who accompanied Jesus up the mountain. And so the mother is writing to her friend. I'm going to read it to you now. It's written in Aramaic. So some of the personal names are quite difficult to pronounce. So I've translated as far as I can. My Aramaic is not great. I've translated as far as I can her name to a more modern English equivalent. So the woman's name is Doreen Hepplewhite. Dear Margaret, I know it isn't long since I last wrote, but I wanted to let you know about some of the odd things that have been happening lately that I thought you might like to know about, because it concerns that bloke Jesus that I know you're so interested in. Now, I told you already about how our John has taken up with Jesus and follows him around all over the place. Now, I'm not too happy about it. I tell him you ought to get a decent job with your qualifications, but he doesn't take any notice of me. I said as much to Florrie next door, but she was in one of her la-di-da moods. She said, "Oh, what a worry for you. I'm glad that I steered my two boys into retail management positions." Retail management positions, my backside. They sell knockoff stuff from a barrow in the high street. They've always been the same, these trotters. Anyway, that's the life he's chosen, and I suppose I'll just have to let him grow out of it. Anyway, our John came in for his tea the other day, and I said to him, "Been casting out any demons lately?" Of course, I knew full well that Jesus had been doing that, because it's been in all the papers, but I do like to wind our John up a bit. "Our man," he says, "you know very well that he has." "Maybe I do," I said. "I hear that Jesus got narky with you." "Perhaps he did and all," he says. "He says that he isn't going to be around forever, and that we have to learn to have faith in him, and that if we do that, we can help people deal with their inner demons ourselves." That's amazing, because last week, and I know you listened to every word, that's just what I was saying. Funny coincidence that, I know. "I didn't understand that until now," he said, "but something happened the other day that made me understand what's going on and why things are going to happen." It does make me smile when he talks like Catherine Cookson. But I humoured him. I said, "What happened then, our John?" He said, "I saw a miracle, a transfiguration." I said, "I've not had you dressing up as a woman in this house." He said, "You daft barn pot. A transfiguration is a moment of divine intervention when someone is filled with the radiance of God. I saw it, our man. I saw Jesus filled with a glowing light, his face and his clothes, everything. And then I saw him talking with Moses and Elijah. I said to Florrie next door, I wondered if he'd been eating those mushrooms again. But she said, no, it's right that Moses and Elijah would be there. Remember that Moses met God, and that ever afterwards his face shone so brightly that no one could look at him directly again. And Elijah, when he died, he went up to meet God in a chariot of fire. Perhaps she's right. Anyway, I said to our John, well, what happened next? He said, well, we dropped a bit of a clanger. We were all pretty shaken up and I didn't really know what to do or what to say. So Peter gabbled out something about making 3 dwelling places for Jesus and Moses and Elijah. He didn't mean big houses made of brick, of course, just some tents. But we could tell straight away it was the wrong thing to say. Well, I should think it was, I said. You'd be no good in a drafty tent, not with your croup. No, you silly mare, he said. That wasn't why it was the wrong thing to say. It's because Peter was trying to say that he could build a tent as a tabernacle, as a dwelling place of God. Because we weren't thinking of Jesus and Moses and Elijah as God. They're just men. But then, there was a voice came from the clouds. He said, listen, our man, I've heard the voice of God. Well, I didn't know whether to congratulate him or send for the funny farm doctors. But I went along with it. What did the voice say? I said. Well, God said, this is my son, my chosen, listen to him. You know what that means, don't you, man? Jesus is the Son of God. Jesus is God. That took me aback, I can tell you. You be careful, John said. If that sort of talk gets back to the Pharisees, you'll be in serious trouble. That's blasphemy, that is. And you know what the penalty is for blasphemy? It's worried me a lot, all this stuff that John's come out with. Up until now, I've thought of Jesus as something of a clever cloth, going around healing and preaching and performing miracles. I mean, he's clever, and I can't see how he does it. But then I was never able to see how Paul Daniels did it either. But if Jesus is the Son of God, well, this takes things to a whole new level. If our John is right, the whole game has changed. It doesn't feel like it's going to end very well. And it doesn't seem like it's going to be far off either. But I think Jesus knows exactly what he's doing and why. And he knows when. That's why he asked Peter and James and John not to breathe a word to anyone, so as not to make things happen before he's ready for it. But of course mothers don't count as anybody, which is why John told me, and I haven't breathed a word to a living soul except to you. Oh, and to Mary Satterthwaite at the post office. And Marjorie at the clinic, but no one else. I hope our John's going to be all right. I still wish he'd set up as a window cleaner when he had the chance. But he's always known his own mind, that one. Perhaps one day he'll write his memoirs and give it a snappy title, something like The Gospel of John. Must go. Give my regards to your husband. Tell him I hope his hemorrhoids are getting better. All the best. Doreen.